We have got the man, the myth, the legend here. And we're going to get partying on this call. My man, Garrett. What's happening, sir?
Oh, brother, how you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Brother, thank you for hanging out with us, man. This is rad.
Absolutely. It's an honor.
No, man. Honor is on this side. Man, so we followed each other for a little while and little messages back and forth here, but this is the first time we've gotten to do this. And I wanted to share a story with you up front if you're good with it, man. And it'll set the
Absolutely.
stage for a little bit of this too. So I've got a couple good buddies that I've known for years and years and years. Some of the only guys that I've known for that long that I stay in touch with. Two of the best humans I know. They're brothers. I've lived with them on a number of occasions as a young buck. We've trained together, fought together, done a bunch of that. Great human beings. Their father is one of my favorite men on the planet. So the first time I ever saw some of your stuff, I went, "Whoa, this guy looks just like Papa Steve, but a younger version." Right? So I don't know, like I got that visual, and then I started learning your story and watching you. Dude, the parallels are uncanny. So this guy who's one of my favorite men on the planet, his background, he had a rough, and he
Mhm.
made some rough decisions. He had some things that he was overcoming as a young buck. He was, in and out of jail as a young buck. I mean, he made some rough choices. Gets older, has some kids, becomes one of the best fathers I have ever seen in my life. Kept himself in shape. He was a boxer and competitive boxer. Went on, man, in his 50s. He decided, you know what? I want to go serve at even a higher level. Goes and applies for Oakland Police Department. Thousands and thousands of people applying at that. Not only did he get in, he's the number one recruit throughout the entire thing, right? The man is he is one of the best humans I know, one of the best fathers I know. And he's got that background. Not only did he overcome demons, but he went to just slay them and help other people slay them too, man. And I see so many parallels with you, man, and I have so much respect for that. So I just wanted to get that out right at the beginning.
That's an awesome story.
Dude, it's the best. And your story is an awesome story, man. So I'm glad we get to dive into it and chat about it and go through that today, man. So again, thank you for taking the hour with us, brother. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, remind me where you are in the world.
I live in Simpson, Illinois, so it's Southern Illinois. I'm like on
Okay.
the border of Kentucky.
Okay.
Population 44.
Oh, I like this already. I like now does that population of 44 does that count the freaking snakes and the turtles and the gators that I see you snatching out of the water?
It
Like,
does not count those.
okay, it doesn't count those. Dude, before we go into stuff, where the heck did this come? I freaking love it. Anytime I see you on a video, if I pull up Instagram and you're kind of walking like this, dude, and you're creeping on something, I'm like, what is he about to yank out of the water right now? Where did that come from?
So my uncle used to pick me up after school when I was about 5 years old. And I remember we had a fairgrounds in our town. The town that I grew up in was real small, and they had a fairgrounds, and we would drive through there. Usually get McDonald's and then drive through there.
Yeah.
And I remember him pointing out this little turtle. I couldn't see it, but it was on a log in the water, and he kept saying, "You see that baby turtle? You see that baby turtle?" And I said, "No, I don't see it. I don't see it." And he gets out and like sneaks up and jumps in like to his knees basically in the water and
Yeah.
brings me back this little baby turtle. And dude, I was hooked from then. Then I started riding my bicycle to the fairgrounds. I would be out there all day, just walking around the ponds trying to catch turtles. And I got to where I had like the little kiddie pools
Yeah.
full of baby turtles. And for a while, I was selling them for like a quarter a piece at the baseball fields and making making a little money. I made like $40 in the summer as 5 years old, and I was like, yeah, I thought I was rich, you know.
Oh, man.
Um,
Yeah.
but then from there, it kind of just progressed because there is some type of adrenaline rush from it,
Yeah.
and then I kind of just started progressing into bigger turtles, bigger snakes, than gators and those type of. Yeah.
Yeah, those type of things, guys. When he's saying snakes and gators, I've seen this man snatch more snakes and a gator and these giant snapping turtles and like it is just, dude, it is fascinating to me. I love it. Have you gotten nailed by something? Has something gotten you at any point?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't handle the larger snappers or the venomous snakes like I do a non-venomous because
Sure,
uh,
sure.
I actually did get bit by a non-venomous or a venomous snake in Florida when I worked for a company called Underground Reptiles.
Okay.
I used to drive to Miami and I would pick up shipments from Miami airport of exotic animals or venomous reptiles.
Yeah.
And I had driven back from Miami airport to Deerfield Beach, Florida, and was in a Sprinter van. Opened the door, and we had like these little boxes, and they were screwed in, wooden boxes screwed in on the top, and would have a label dangerous or venomous animals. Well, I don't know if like the turbulence of the plane or something like unscrewed the box, but I pull the box out and something bites me. I didn't even see it, but I knew the only thing in there was venomous snakes.
Yep.
And it was a little African bush viper. Um, they call it a squam. And I go in, and my boss is like, "We got to go to the ER. We got to go to the hospital now." So I get in, and I'm like, I think I'm dying. And in my head, I'm like pressing my head against the window, and I feel like I'm getting lightheaded and all that. And I get there, and they're like, "Oh man, you're blessed on that one. It was a dry bite." So
Uh,
sometimes, yeah. But I thought, man, I was like, dude, I'm dead. I'm
yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
So sometimes venomous snakes will bite you without injecting you, just to be like, "Hey, okay, next time I'm going to get you. Get out of here."
That's fascinating, man. And dude, and the just that alone, the psychosomatics, like what we can do with our own thoughts,
Sure.
right? If we let ourselves and we can think that a bite's worse than it is, and that's physical and metaphorical, man, in a bunch of ways, right? And
Yep.
we can take on all of the attributes of man, we're going down when the reality is we're covered and we're all set. That's a
Yeah.
metaphor in and of itself,
Yeah.
bro. Dang. Okay, that's rad. Well, I want to go a few different places, man, because
Sure.
first of all, I'm pumped. Congratulations on an amazing career as a fighter.
Thank you.
Uh, and the championship, the black belt, dude, from Tom.
Yeah.
Like, come on. So I want to talk about that a little bit, obviously. I want to talk fatherhood and things too, man. And there's Operation 17 too. Like you're doing some great stuff, man. I want to talk about all of it. But talk to us about the fight career and for us, more important, like what drove you to jump in there? What drove you to actually go, all right, man, I want to get in there and I want to test myself in this way. What was your journey like getting into the sport?
So as a kid, I always loved fighting, but it was like a sport thing. Like I didn't necessarily have to be mad to fight you.
Yeah,
I love to compete. I could fight my best friend and be best friends with him after. I like the competition part of it.
yeah.
Well, I didn't have any background in martial arts. I played baseball, track, basketball, football up
Okay.
throughout high school, and um, we're getting recruited pretty hard for football, but a whole different story. And I started getting into alcohol and drugs and ended up not being
Sure.
able to. Um, but I came home. I was in college. I came home. My dad was a football coach at the local school that I went to.
Yeah.
And I came home on a Friday night and ran into a kid that I played sports with my entire life. And he was an average athlete. He wasn't great, but he was okay. And he told me that he was 5-0 as an amateur MMA fighter. And I'm like, I'm like 19 years old. And I'm like, dude, like I could beat you up right now, you know? And
Yeah.
he had actually been training, which he told me, but I wasn't buying it.
Sure.
And he invited me to go over to his house and spar the next week, like the next Tuesday. So I went over there and he didn't like demolish me, but he beat me. Like if
Yeah.
there was a judge there, like he beat me.
Yeah.
And from then I was like, I never quit. I was
I got to
kept
get on
going.
it.
And I actually had my first fight 2 months later in the cage. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just athletic and aggressive.
Yeah.
Um, I touched gloves, got kicked immediately in the face, ended up getting the guy on the ground and choking him out in a guillotine on my knees, which just goes to show that neither one of us knew what we were doing.
Had
You
any
know?
idea what was going on. Yeah, totally. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, dude, where were you training out of? Where was this?
So at first, I started training just in a garage with a bunch of other people that had no idea what they were doing. Uh,
Okay.
and then, do you remember Matt Hughes?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. So he opened a gym in Granite City, Illinois, which is about
Yep.
an hour and a half
Yep.
from where we are. And me and a buddy were driving there 4 or 5 times a week and getting there in the morning and staying all day and driving back at night. And then
Yeah.
eventually he opened up a like a fighter barracks. So we moved in there and we're living in the dorms there.
Yep.
Um, so I was there for probably 2 years, and then everybody kind of split up. They ended up selling the gym, and everybody kind of dispersed. Then I went to Tyron Woodley's gym,
Yep.
which isn't he was in St. Louis, which wasn't far from Granite City,
Yep.
and that's how I got connected with top team in Coconut Creek.
Got
So,
it.
and then I was there for 4 years. Um, which was a cool experience. And then for a year, I went out to Hawaii. And was at Max Holloway's gym.
Oh, right on. Yeah, Max
Then I
is.
ended up
Yep.
um, coming back to Illinois, then moved to Tennessee, and then now I'm back in Illinois.
Okay. Yeah. So you've been around. That's rad. The last time I saw Matt, actually, Hughes was I was talking with him and Hoyce
Yeah.
in the St. Louis airport.
Oh yeah.
And it was not too long before Matt got, before he got hit,
Sure.
and had all of those things. So that was the last time I saw him. So it was some years back, but man, was always just was a super solid guy, man, and obviously an absolute legend, in the sport. I don't know Woodley at all, but the top team crew, man, I'll tell you, just top notch. We're out here in Asheville. We go to American Top Team out here in Asheville with Steve Montgomery running the show out here, and Bam Bam's out here, and some good folks out here too.
You got to tell Steve that Garrett Gross said hello.
Okay, I will. I
Yeah.
will. Yeah,
We've
he
been
said
together for many years.
that's awesome, man. He's such a good dude, man. Such a good dude, and he does a great job, man. I love that he holds the standard out there, man, and I always appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
He holds a standard with everybody, and my to have my young man get out there and train and have good guys, that are good character guys leading the
Sure.
way. That matters.
100%.
That's a big deal. Speaking of
Absolutely.
that, I know that's how you roll too on the fatherhood side. Give us a rundown on the family, man, because I want you to talk about your family. You've got I love watching the stuff with your kids. Your little girl, she's coming out and throwing hands and coming out, watching her wrestle and coming at the dude. I just wanna wrap her up, man. I just want to hug her and just freaking fight. Like, dude, I love it, man. Tell us about the family, brother.
So I've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
Ezra is my oldest. He's 12.
Yep.
Rowan is my second. He is 7. And then my daughter, Rory, she is 6.
Yeah, man.
And then I've my wife, Alicia.
Yeah, man. It's just, dude, and so all three in combat sports, or is it just Rory? What does that look like?
So
Remind.
all three wrestle.
Okay.
All three wrestle. And then
Yep.
we're doing, I've got a little gym at my house that
Yeah.
we're doing jujitsu and a little bit of striking. And then my
Yeah.
daughter also does gymnastics, which
Uh,
my son is wanting to do. Is just finding the time right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's killer, man. So tell me, so I love watching you work with them, but another thing that I love so much, man, is you also are instilling the work ethic in them too. It's not just the workouts, but it's the work ethic too. I've seen your boy out mowing the lawn,
Right.
right? I've seen your boy out there pushing the mower and taking care of business. And so where did that come from? Were you raised that way too? And then you're transferring it over? Is that something that you and your wife just kind of decided, look, man, we really want to impart this? Like, where'd that come from?
So my dad was a coach, so he did instill work ethic in me. I would just say it was in the wrong areas.
Okay.
So, so there good came from it. Obviously, I think sports are a good thing, but my life was so consumed with sports that when I got old enough and had kids, I'm like, I want my kids to know how to do this because it's something that will benefit them in the long run.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to do it. So it
Yeah.
was things because my life was so consumed with I'm in this sport and this sport and this sport. I didn't really learn anything that I would say was functional for my future.
Yeah.
because I was 5 years old, like getting up before kindergarten and had this mask on where I couldn't look down at the ball, and I dribble up the driveway with my left hand and then back with my right hand and speed it up. Like, cool, but I just I'm a white kid. I'm 5'9". Like the chances that anybody is going to become a professional athlete and make a living from
Yep.
it is like 0.0002.
Yeah.
So I think just realistically, I think all these things like wrestling. I love wrestling because um, I like team sports, but wrestling, like you can't. It's on you. You can't blame the coach. You can't blame your teammates. Like it's you.
Yeah.
So you learn how to deal with shame and failure and those things. And
Yeah.
I think that those type of lessons are preparing my kids. I'm trying to prepare them for life, not to be a professional athlete.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good for you, man. It seems like it should be such a commonplace conversation, and it's not anymore. It's not like that. It's an outlier thing now to raise kids and have them working, have them
Right.
have chores, have responsibilities, and that's part of this program for the 12 months is whether these young men have something at home or not. We're going to make sure they got something at home and outside the home where they are working.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want those lessons to go, man. And
Well,
I think there's going to be a separation for these kids.
it used to be like that here in the United States
Yes,
at
sir.
some point.
Yes, sir.
Um, and even now, like if you look at like tribal areas, like you don't see like boys with boys. You see boys with men.
Yes, sir.
Because the only way to become a man is to be trained by men.
Man, spot on. And I know that's not a popular thing to say in a
Yeah,
lot of circles anymore, but that's just the straight up truth.
absolutely.
That is the straight up truth. So, who are some of the men? This is just kind of riffing off of that. Who are some of the men that you pay attention to for your own growth? Now, obviously, you just got your black belt from Tom, and I mean, just absolute legend there. And I'm sure there is a mentorship side of that relationship too. And Tom's a brilliant guy, masterful coach. Who are some of the other guys that you look to still pour into you, even as a grown man? Because that's something that I continuously look just like, okay, who else do I have in my circle that is feeding into me too? That's an important piece. Who are those
So,
guys for you?
so first off, I say that I'm in the scriptures to see, um, not compare myself to other men, but to Christ.
Yes, sir.
So that's where I'm looking first. But then from there, I had a pastor in Florida named Ryan Gitman, and Bob would probably know him from American Top Team.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I think he may have even came to church there a few times.
Okay.
Um, so he was one of the first people, the first men to point me towards Christ, and I thought growing up like something was wrong with me because I would have all these crazy wicked thoughts. And I remember going to the first men's meeting, and he sat down, and there was like 30 other guys in there, and he told me this story, and I was like, wait, that's crazy. Like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that. And then there's like 30 other guys that are talking about like okay, I'm not. Maybe I am normal. It's just like everybody else has these thoughts. So from there, that's really like I would say when I started manhood or started to become a man to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm still very active talking to my pastor in Tennessee. I talk
Yeah.
to him once a week.
Yeah.
There's a guy named I don't know if you've ever heard him. His name's Paul Washer. I've never met him.
I've never met Paul either, but I do know who he is.
Man,
Absolutely.
dude, that dude has probably shaped me as a person more than
Oh,
anything outside of scripture. And
yeah.
one of the first things that I heard was I just came across him on YouTube, and it was a sermon on biblical manhood.
Yeah.
I listened to it, and I was like, there was so much truth in it that you just knew was true,
Yeah.
but I never heard anything like it. And it
Yeah.
was like it was discussions like that that we all as men should be having at the table with our sons and
Yeah.
like that I'd never heard before, you know?
Yep.
And it really helped me become a better husband and father.
That's awesome, man. Washer comes, he'll
Yeah.
come very flat, very direct.
Yeah.
Very much so. No, that's awesome, man. So you've got, oh, and Mikey T says, yeah, what age was that when you started sat down, had that conversation, kind of started feeling, because I love what, and the way you said to Mikey, I was going to go in that same direction. Because one of the questions that a lot of these young men will ask sometimes, because these guys are going to come in here in a few minutes and ask a little, do a little Q&A. One of the questions that I love that some of the young men have asked before is, how do you define maturity? And you really almost kind of gave a nod to that right there, is you kind of went, oh, okay. Like I've got these thoughts. I realize other people have these thoughts, and there is something I can do about it. And there's a way I can lean in. There's a way I can control that too, right? And so that decision, you said that's kind of like I started to become a man, right there. To me, that decision, that's maturity, right? It doesn't mean perfection.
Right.
It just means,
Sure.
okay, I'm responsible for this, and
Right.
I can start to grow this, right? How old were you when you started diving into that?
I'm 36 now, so I would say 23 or 4.
Okay, all
Three
right,
or four, but I would say that so it was a process, and I would say
sure,
that I didn't really. I'm 36, and I would say that 34 of my years I did wrong
yeah,
until I got sober.
yeah.
That was a huge that
That
changed everything for me.
Yes, sir. That's a big deal. Well, do you mind talking about that a little bit? The
Yeah.
structure on that and what the decision, because if we can lay out for these young men, look, man, here was the trap, but here's how I came, and we can help them avoid, some of those distractions, man. That's what we're here for. So you mind laying
Um,
that a little?
so I started drinking pretty early. I had my parents went through a divorce. Um, when I was 4, but when I was 12 is when I found out what actually happened and I understood it,
Got
uh,
it.
which I would like to say that's what it was that led me to drinking. I'm not sure. That's the only conclusion that I can come up with.
Yeah.
Started hanging out with older kids and drinking and experimenting with drugs. And my 16th birthday, I did cocaine for the first time.
Mm,
And from there, I have an addictive personality. So I
mhm,
can't, if I do something, regardless of what I do, I'm going to do it. And God has given us gifts like that. But how
mhm.
are you going to use it? You can either use it for good purposes or bad purposes. And majority of my life, I used them for the wrong purpose, not the gift that God had given me for. Um, and I would say that I progressively um, got better, as in used less frequent over time, but I didn't
Yeah.
understand how much it affected my mind. Like, so
Mm,
even if I would, well, I'm only going to drink on Friday night because so I would still make um, work the next week. But if I drank, I was going to use drugs. I was going to use
yeah.
cocaine if I drank, and it really, before I would start getting normal in my head, it would be Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then Friday, I'm doing it again. So it was like this
Right.
vicious cycle. And finally, when I decided, man, I can't even, I had no plan to quit. I didn't
Yeah.
have a plan that I was going to quit in my head. And all glory to God, because I woke up one morning and hated it. I just woke up and hated it and still had a bottle of tequila in my refrigerator that I looked at every single day for a year and a half. And when I looked at it, it made me sick. So from there, man, I thought like I thought I was getting smarter, and it was just that I didn't need 3 or 4 days to rest and
Yeah.
recover. So I was in the gym double the time. I was reading double the time. I was talking to people that I have relationships more. So 100% of what I did got better when I got sober,
Yeah,
which
man.
carried like things that I didn't even know that I were suffering. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you, man. And I'm so that identity shift. right? Where it's like you look at it and it's not like, not only do I not want, I'm repulsed by that, right? There's that identity shift that takes place. And I love what you said, because I think this is absolutely true. The God gives us these gifts and they can go the other way. Like we have to understand that. And a lot of these labels that like we get thrown up, dude, I'm with you. I've got an addictive, like dude,
Yeah,
it's a little obsessive and a little crazy.
sure.
So let's move that towards
Something positive.
optimizing something
Yeah,
positive.
yeah.
That's it. That's not a bad thing. You don't
Oh,
dumb that down. You
I mean,
don't.
I think that you can look at the men in the Bible,
Sure.
Paul and David, and for a long time they used their gifts in the incorrect way as well. But then when
Right.
they put it into the right purpose, man, it was like
Done deal. That's it.
absolutely.
And start leading the way. No, man, I love that so much. And I want to encourage everybody, like the young men that are on here, but anybody who ends up, listening after the fact too, man, like defining those gifts. It's okay to define those gifts too. We also live in a weird world where it's like, especially for young men, where we want to slap a label on everything, but we want to do it in a negative light. And we want to have this false bravado around things that don't really matter. And it's like, okay, well, you don't have to pick either one of those. You can objectively look and have other good people who pour into you and go, look, here's something that you're objectively good at. Here's something that you've objectively been gifted with.
Sure.
Now it's your moral obligation, it's your responsibility to go do something powerful with that. Right. And that's the kind of life we want to speak into our young people, man.
Absolutely.
Ah, dude, so good. So tell me about, so gentlemen, young men, if you guys start having some questions, you guys can start putting your hands up. I'm going to start bringing you guys in here in just a second too. Um, Tell me about this Operation 17-2. What is the vision for this? Where did this come from, man? And like, what's kind of the vision for going forward on this, man?
Man, so my buddy in Florida had started one. It's called 561 PC. His
Okay.
name's Justin Lampros, Scrappy 135 MMA on Instagram. And they started and built relationships with the local departments. And man, they're catching people left and right. And so my wife had a very
When you say
different
catch people, not to interrupt, when you say catch people, you're talking like you're catching
pedophile.
child predators.
Yes, yes,
I mean, this is like we're catching some bad people left and
yeah,
right. Okay.
yeah. My wife had a very different life growing up than me. So her experiences, man, she thought like that pretty much everybody was a pedophile,
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
experiences that she had went through. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I don't think I know anybody that is like growing up where I was,
Yeah.
which there was, but I didn't know, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And the first time that we decided that we were going to try it, I was in Tennessee and I'd already talked to some of the local departments there about doing it. And we had a fake account where I posed as a minor.
Yeah.
The pictures were put into a generator thing where it makes a person look young. And in the first 30 minutes with a 100-mile radius, I had 70 something messages.
No way.
And the surprise part for me was they would ask how old I was, and I would say, "Oh, I'm almost 13," and none of them cared.
Bro.
And all these were all men that were 18 and older, and they were sending me pictures of the privates without even speaking, um, asking me for my phone number, asking to call me, and I was like, "Man, this is way worse than what I even expected." Um, and I think that's one of the most disgusting things on the planet. So, I really wish that I could have went into law enforcement, but choices that I made throughout my life doesn't allow
Sure.
me to do so. So, maybe this is a way that I can serve,
And help people
you
out.
know. So,
Man, man. Unbelievable. We've had a number of people who have worked in that industry in a number of ways. Tim Ballard, when Sound
yeah,
of Freedom came out, Tim came on with our men and women, and
yeah,
we've had a number of people. We worked with the Association of the Recovery of Children up in Connecticut, did a live event with them up there. So it's something that as an organization, poured into. And one of the most encouraging things that we continue to hear from people working in this field, because a lot of the men, as we've been talking to these guys, will say, "Hey, well, what can we do, right? What do we do? How do we take action? What is that?" Because not everybody's going to have the stomach for going online and getting some of the messages like you got. Not everybody's going to want to go doing the door kicking and like not everybody's going to want to do that stuff. But what all of them universally have said, they said, look, first and foremost, you be a good man and you go lead your family like a good man. Go hug your kids, go raise your kids well, go pour into them, right? Lead them well. That is the first and biggest and best defense as far as
Sure.
what you can actually do, and that alone is a big deal. But yeah, it's unbelievable. As you get down, as you start working towards those things, whatever we can do to help, whatever we can do to make, if there's connections that we can help with or whatever, say the word, man, because that's a battle
Yeah.
worth, brother. Yeah,
It's
man.
still in a process. I'm still kind of building
Sure.
relationships with the local departments, but
Sure.
I think here maybe this spring I'll be able to get stuff in the works and get going.
Good for you, man. So what else are you building out too? Because am I wrong in that you're not fighting anymore, right? Like you are like okay, I thought I had that right. So
Retired last year.
that's what I thought, man. I remember that last one. So what are you looking forward to building out now? I know you're building out this. What else are you working on and building out
So
right now?
I work for a company out of Chattanooga right now, and I do logistics from
Okay.
from home,
Okay.
but I can get my workload done pretty quickly for the week.
Yeah.
So right now I'm looking into buying some equipment, maybe a skid steer, dump trailer, some stuff like that.
Nice.
Just something that I can pass on to my kids, teach
Yeah,
my
man.
kids. Um, and then I still train regularly. I would eventually like to open a gym, but right now the stuff that my kids do is in the evening, and I go to all their stuff. So gymnastics, wrestling. The only
Yep.
time that I can make money um, with a gym is in the evening, and I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm gonna go to my kids' stuff. So that's where maybe when they're a little bit older,
Yeah.
and they can drive or something like that. But right now, that's where we're at.
Good for you, man. That's so rad. All right, let's get some of these questions in here. Mr. Smith, let's bring you in.
All right. Hello, sir.
How are
Good
you doing?
to meet you here. Glad
You,
you came on. Real interested in a lot of the things you were talking about. Martial arts aspect is more of where my question comes from. So I've trained in Taekwondo for about 10 years now.
uh,
And I'd like to in the future get into something else. So my question's I kind of have two different martial arts fighting questions. The first one is uh, my taekwondo school, it teaches a little bit of like slightly mixed martial arts, so it's not just your classic olympic style fighting.
sure.
They teach a little more hand-to-hand grappling a little bit. So is there a martial art you would suggest that I should go into next as a way of expanding my skills? And then the second question is, in all of the fighting that you've done, what are some of the most common attacks that people like on the street might come at you? I'm thinking
Hmm.
about going into law enforcement myself, and people on the street don't fight you like someone in a school will. So, are
Mm.
there certain attacks you see a lot of the time that I could look to defend? So, those two
Mm.
questions, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I would say 100% jujitsu on the style of martial arts, because jujitsu you get like a combination of wrestling and then also the submission part. And jiu-jitsu was made for self-defense, as in, look, if I'm standing up with you, I could accidentally, even if I'm 10 times better than you throw a big shot, you could get lucky, right? That's possible in striking. You're not going to accidentally guillotine me or accidentally armbar me. So it's a safe way you can get somebody on the ground. Like if I had to get in a fight now for some reason, I wouldn't have to hurt anybody. I could take them down and control them until the authorities came.
Mm.
So jujitsu, I think, for self defense and looking to be an officer, is the most practical style that you could do. And then how somebody would fight you in a gym compared to, so I do train some police officers, and generally what they talk about, nobody really wants to fight. Um, but it's grabbing arms. Like the guys will just try to tie you up, which is where jujitsu obviously would come into play. Learning how to arm drag, um, certain moves like Kimuras, things like that, that you're able to get the perp down to the ground, control them, and put them in handcuffs.
Mm. Yep.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been
Thank
thinking
you.
about jujitsu, looking around at the gyms in the area. So I'll take that advice and start
Jiu-jitsu,
learning that.
jiu-jitsu too, man, is one of those things that is like, it's unlimited, like knowledge. Like you can never, I compare it to scripture actually, because you can read scripture 100 times and then the 101st time you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. The same
Yeah.
thing with jiu-jitsu, and it's unlimited. You can never reach your full potential there.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, good question, Malachi. It's funny, man. You and I are the same. So I'm 5'9", same. It's funny because I always talked about playing basketball. I played basketball in high school too, and we ended up getting second in the state of California. We're a decent squad, and but I'm like a 5'9". I'm a 5'9" white
Sure.
dude. So I always talk about the same kind of stuff. So it was funny, man. We had a buddy of mine, same size as us. His name is Jason Peets. Jason was a fighter, and he was one of the original Lions Den guys. So it was like him when
Yeah.
back like him, like Jerry Bolander and Mikey Burnett and some of these old school dudes, right? And Jason trained me for a little bit when I first got into the grappling side, and he was bouncing at this bar in California. And I was working a couple jobs, put myself through school, and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "we got a couple nights a week if you want to come out and work at the bar,
Yeah.
and help clean this up." And I'm like, "All right, cool, man." He's like, "You got to come. Like, you're hired, you're good to go, but you need to come meet with the owner." And so I get there at night, and there's a guy just out in the street, and he's just
Yeah.
just going at Jason. Jason's being very polite, being very cordial, and just but that's exactly what happened. Malachi is the dude finally just got so mad, and he grabs and Jason's super kind, and he sees me, and he's like, "Hey man, I'll be right with you," and just being super nice. And the dude tried to lay hands on him, and an arm dragging ends up taking him down and getting on top. Didn't have to hurt the guy a bit though, and was just like, "All right, man, you understand this isn't going to go well." But he was able to just contain him, get the guy back to his senses, get up, and there was no real big altercation, and that was
Sure.
a beautiful thing, right? And then he gets up and he's like, "All right, man, you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hired, cool." And I was like, "That was the coolest job interview I ever had." You know, it's that. It's a good question, Malachi. There you go, Mr. Trabulski.
Hey, good morning, Garrett. Thank you so much
Morning,
for
buddy.
your time today, man. So
Absolutely.
my question is back to the first gentleman that introduced you and pointed you towards Christ and Scripture and all that. How did that conversation go? Like, how did he approach you on that to where it didn't turn you in the other direction?
Man, so actually, I spent a small amount of time in prison, and was released in 2010. After that, is when I moved to Kissimmee, right outside of Orlando, and at that time, um, we had just had my son. He was probably, when we moved there, he was probably 6 months old, and she had a semester of school left. So she went back and took my son to school, and I ended up staying. Was going to work until she got back. Well, at that time, um, the job fell through that I was supposed to get. Well, my sister had moved down to South Florida and called me and was like, "Hey, if you want to come stay down here with me and train at American Top Team, which is somewhere that I always wanted to train at, you can come down here." Well, at that time of my life, it was the best that I'd ever done. And I was going to a church, and now looking back at it, they were I liked the people, but it wasn't biblical church. So I drive. All I have is a motorcycle and $300, and I drive down to South Florida, and I go to the gym, and I put $300 down on, or $253 down on my membership. So I have $47 left. And I was driving back to my sister's house. My motorcycle breaks down, and I don't even have enough money to tow it. So I call my sister. She comes, sits on the side of the road with me for a while, and I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do? I messaged a guy on Facebook from American Top Team, asked him if he knew anybody that had a truck that could just hold my motorcycle back. He gives me this guy's name, Ryan Gitman. And I'm like, dude, I don't know this guy. I don't message some random guy to come pick me up. Well, I sat there for about 4 hours and like out of desperation, I'm like, all right, I'm going to message this guy. So he comes and picks me up. And you remember back in the day, they used to have like ringback tones. So like if you called me,
yeah.
you could hear music, right? And so I had a song, a ringback that was leading me to the cross. Well, it didn't register to me at the time, but Gitman had heard that. And then on the drive back, dropping me off, he asked me if I was a follower of Christ. And I said, yeah, but I was freaked out, kind of like, dude, why are you asking me this question, you know? And he's like, well, I got a church that you can come to Sunday. If you'd like to, I'll have my son-in-law pick you up. So he picks me up. I go, I sit in the very back row. The guy, Ryan Gitman, came, sat by me, asked me how I was doing and all this. And the music started to play, and he walked up to the pulpit. he was the preacher, man. And I thought it was like an answered prayer for me, because I was scared to go further south because of the lifestyle that I used to live. You know, South Florida is kind of known for the party life. So that was like an answered prayer the very first day. And just that he was so humble and wasn't, like, hey, I'm the preacher. I had no idea he was the preacher. You know what I mean? So I think just the humility was something that was attractive to me, being a man. And then I found out he owned a reptile store and was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he gave me a job and was also training me. So it was like, dude, it was crazy.
Yeah, buddy.
Man, I appreciate that. I love hearing people's testimonies and stories around faith, man, because I think it's so encouraging for everybody else to hear those stories over and over again. And like you said, man, you might hear that story 1,000 times, but it might be that 1,001st person.
Yeah.
Story.
It says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Yeah, man. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, man.
It's killer. I love it. You mentioned going in, and Dylan, I see your hand. I'm about to bring you in just 1 second, sir. You mentioned coming out in 2010, and what do you think? This is just kind of, it's not as important as anything we're talking about, right? But what do you think about the whole Kane situation right now with Kane Velasquez? And I asked specifically, so we've got you here with us, and then what I'll do is I'll take these young men after we wrap up at the hour. I'll take these young men through a debrief, and we'll go into a little bit of a Socratic conversation for the next hour. And then my call right after that is with Todd Duffy. Right. So Todd's gonna give you a buzz, and I love that dude, man. And
yeah, I used to train with him too.
Yeah, man, he's a wild man. So and he's really good friends with Kane, and that whole deal. And I know Kane's going back in, and he's gonna come on with these young guys when he comes out. What are your thoughts on that whole situation, man?
Man, so you might have to censor this.
I understand. So I understand.
I would say that I would probably do something similar, but not the same way.
Understand.
As in, you can't, there's ways to respond without doing it straight out of emotion, and that's what I would say, that I would probably do something similar, but not in a little more methodically.
Yeah, understood, man.
Dude,
understood.
but I can't say, it's easy to say without being that person, right?
100%. Yep, 100%. That's the conversation, man. Because I mean, as soon as it first happened too, and obviously Tim, Kennedy being one of my best friends, and we had a conversation about that right from the get-go, and the same sort of deal, man. It's like, all right, we like to think we're smart enough to go about it this way. Man, we don't know. Right? Like, we don't know.
I'm always looking for ways to justify.
I
As a man, I'm always looking. There's in Exodus, I think it's Exodus 2:11 and 12. It's Moses, and as a kid, like, he watched these people get beaten, and then he becomes a man, And it says that he comes and he sees an Egyptian beating one of his people.
Right.
And he looks around, sees nobody's there, and he kills him and buries him in the sand. So that's
I understand. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
I get it, man. Yeah, that's as far as we'll go on that. But man, I'm
yeah.
right. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you, and I think we got a lot of, some of the best men I know on the planet are on this very call right here, and I think you're probably getting a whole lot
Yeah,
of that.
sure.
Understood. All right, Dylan, get in here, sir. We just gotta unmute you. Oh, oh, so close, Dylan. So close. Had the hand up for so long, man.
Yeah,
There we go.
sorry, I just had to switch to my computer there so y'all can see me in
Oh,
full
you're fine,
screen.
sir.
Um, so I've actually got two questions if you don't mind me
Sure.
asking quickly. So if there's one thing you would find in a street fight or even multiple things, what's one way you would go about it to uh exploit um people's faults and come out on top?
So I would say, depending on if you've had experience in any type of martial arts, I would first say train jujitsu. Um, but if you don't have any experience in jujitsu, I would say hit them first. 90%
Okay.
of street fights are won probably on the first punch. My dad always told me as a kid, like, don't start a fight, but if you know that you're going to fight, to hit him first. Yeah, I'm not going to stand in a fight, and, because you see people do it all the time, say, hit me first. Like, I'm going to hit you first, and I'm probably going to win.
Okay.
But the best thing to do would just to be trained where you don't have to do that, so that you can do it without depending obviously on the situation. Most of the situations you want to be able to control it without having to hurt somebody. Obviously, if somebody's attacking your family or things along those lines, yeah, maybe it's a little more justified if you're elbowing them in the face.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I hadn't thought about that before, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And I know you turned down the wrong path for a little while, and I think it'd be helpful to know um, if there's anything you thought that could have prevented you from going down that route, or the things to steer clear of that people might not think of all the time.
Good
Yeah.
question.
One thing I wish people would have called me out more, which I think people were, I don't know, I'd like to think of myself as a nice guy, but I think people thought like if they confronted me like that, I would try to fight them. So Proverbs 27:5 says, open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed. So I don't think like having difficult conversations with people is the correct thing to do if you truly love them, right? Disciplining them. Um, and then I would say with what was the second question again? The second part of your question.
Oh, it was anything you would avoid doing.
Okay, yeah. So um 1 Corinthians 15:33 says bad company corrupts good morals. Proverbs
Mm,
13:20 says he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So
mm,
all throughout scripture, it warns us like who to surround ourselves with. And for me, that was vital. And when I had people that I was around that wanted me to do good and was pointing me towards Christ, my life started to change and my behavior started to change. But when I was around people that weren't doing good, I was obviously kind of conforming to those things. So um, choosing carefully who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
agreed.
And what would you say to somebody that says, "Well, I'm young and I just want to have fun. I'm not
Mm,
worried about uh, too much about some of the dumber stuff I do,
Yeah.
uh, or whatever."
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a cop out, but I would say that comes back to the parent, fault on the parent. Not that it couldn't happen anyways, you know. But just in love, trying to communicate the correct things to them, you know, because if you come and tell me, hey, you're wrong, I'm probably not going to receive it, even if you are right, you know. So
Yeah.
those are difficult conversations and things that you kind of have to think through before doing it, you know. But I do think um, calling people out on, I would say, their sin is the right thing to do. You just got to figure out the way to deliver it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And
No, I
Dylan,
like that. That's
yeah,
very good. Thank you.
Thank
and I
you, man.
appreciate that question too, Dylan, because I'll tell you what, uh,
Absolutely.
it is, that slippery slope of like, I don't have to worry about it yet. I get it, and I get it from from being the young man who thought that way in a number of opportunities. And I'll tell you what, it's only the grace of God that things didn't go sideways more than they did, more often than they did. And there's so
Until,
many people. Go ahead.
until you're, like decisions like having sex, man. I had kids before I was ready. You know what I mean? By decisions, I don't have to worry about. Well, yeah, you do. And then you're not. I was not prepared to be a father or a husband or lead a family.
That's right.
So then at that point, you're not leading your wife correctly, and you're not leading your children correctly.
That's right.
So that's why we need to be prepared for manhood before we enter into,
Yeah,
participate in those things.
that's right. That's
Would
right.
you say that's one of the biggest mistakes you find in people, having kids too early?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily having kids too early, um, because if you look back in
Sure.
times, people could have kids early, but they were also prepared to provide and protect and do the
Right.
things that a man should do. And now we have 38-year-old boys,
That's right.
Yeah.
so it's um, taking care of the stuff now. Like I tell my kids, like my son is 7 and he's attracted to girls, and my daughter is 6 and she's attracted to boys. But I tell them when that bell goes off in their head and they realize that my son realizes that girls don't have cooties, it's not his time to participate, but it's time to start taking seriously his preparation for manhood so that
Mm,
one day he can enter into that and do the right things. Because I
right.
think that weak men, and I consider myself for many years in that category, is the downfall of everything.
Sir.
Is weak
Yeah.
leaders, and which weak men has been the downfall of our civilization.
Yep. Yep. Spot
Yeah.
on.
I love that differentiation from age and maturity. It's very important.
It is extraordinarily important, Dylan. And that's one of the things, so proud of you guys as we get to connect every week. It's that. And I tell people all the time, because they'll say, well, you're pouring into the young men, but you know how young men are. And nah, stop.
Yeah.
Stop right now. I know 15-year-old men and
Yeah,
I know 40-year-old boys.
100%.
That's
Yeah.
100%. That's 100% correct. And so I
100%.
appreciate you so much on that, Dylan. And it's that slippery slip coming back kind of full circle on that too. And you're talking about, the combat side of things and exploiting weakness, right? And the slippery slope. So I can tell you, and I agree with what Mr. Gross says, as far as that goes. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and go first, right? And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's also realizing something's about to go down, and if you can get out of there, you get out of there too, right? And so I got a good friend of mine still to this day. He is, how old am I? I'm 45, so he's 47. And good dude, glad he's here, taking care of his family, good man. He's got his face on this side kind of goes in, and he can't really talk too much out. You know why? We were hanging out, just doing what young guys do, going down the slippery slope of like, no big deal, trouble coming at the fraternity house. And I saw it coming and went, this is a little bit different. I got some girls that are here. I'm going to get them out because I think we're going to have some trouble. We get out of there. He was like, nah, man, I'm going to stay and get this going. And he took a knife to the face and
Yeah.
almost ended his life, right? And so and is a good human being. It was just that young, dumb, like, nah, we can handle.
Sure.
Just those moments, man.
Yeah.
Those moments can go all kinds of crazy, you know? So maturity, keeping yourselves out of those things when you can.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Really, really good questions, young man. Really good questions. Um, brother, I want to keep these conversations going any way that I can. However we can help as you start building things out there, you know, I mean it, man. Whatever we can do, I want to keep these conversations going, man. So I'm really grateful continuously telling your story, for you leading by example, for showing how fathers can show up the way that you are. It's a message that needs to get out. We can't have too much of that, man, because weak men are going to be the downfall of society if we let it. You know, it's exactly that. So as we put this out as a podcast too, the two final questions for us: one, where do we find you and give you a follow? Two, how do we as an organization here best support Garrett and his family? Those are the final two for us.
Find me on Instagram is what I use mostly. Official Garrett Gross,
Mm.
and then prayer, man. Be praying for me. That's the most powerful thing that you could do. Um, I would say that Christ is the most important decision. Christ and your wife are the two most important decisions that you'll make in your lifetime. But with your wife, man, you got to be ready to be a husband at that
Mhm.
time, man. So, yeah, just prayer, brother.
It's awesome, man. I appreciate you so much, man. I'm gonna
Yeah,
bring these guys through a debrief. I got to chat with Todd, and then couple other calls too. But then I'm gonna shoot you something over, man. I want to send something out to the family, and we'll make sure you got my cell and all that too, man, so we can just stay connected. So I'll shoot you a message here in a few hours, and
awesome,
keep this conversation rolling,
awesome,
brother.
man. I appreciate it.
Oh man, thank you for the time. Thank you for being on the show, gentlemen. Let's give a big thank you over here.